Wait, don't click away. Because if you've ever looked at a young person stepping into a brand new chapter and thought, wow, their whole life is ahead of them, I want to gently remind you of something today. So is yours. Maybe not in the same way. Maybe not with the same fresh diploma, the same 22-year-old energy, the same open calendar, or the same beginner's blank slate. But your life is still unfolding. Your story is still being written. Your next chapter still has discoveries in it. And just because we're in midlife doesn't mean the adventure is over, y'all. It may actually mean we're finally wise enough to recognize it. Graduation season has a way of making us reflect. We watch young people walk across stages wearing caps and gowns, surrounded by proud families, smiling through tears, holding degrees that represents years of sacrifice, discipline, doubt, growth, and possibility. This week, my nephew graduated from Columbia University in New York City. Yeah, Columbia. And we are all so proud of him. I mean, that's no small thing. That's a major accomplishment. That's discipline, focused, vision. That's prayers, late nights, hard work, decisions, sacrifices, support, and a whole lot of becoming. And as I watched this young man step into his next season, it made me think about something deeper. His life is still full of discoveries. But so is mine. So is yours. So are ours. And today I want to talk about that. Not just graduation in the traditional sense, but the graduations we experience in midlife. The quiet ones, the private ones, the ones nobody throws a party for, the ones that don't come with a cap and gown, but absolutely deserve recognition. Because graduating from college is commendable, but so is starting over after divorce. So is raising children and finally choosing yourself again. So is healing from disappointment. So is rebuilding your confidence after rejection. So is walking away from a job, a relationship, a mindset, or a version of yourself that no longer fits. So is deciding at 45, 60, and beyond that you are not finished. That there is still more to learn, still more to appreciate, still more to experience, still more to become. So let's talk about that. Hey friends, welcome back to Waves of Change, the space where we talk about life transitions, reinvention, faith, resilience, mindset, and learning how to stay grounded while everything around us is still unfolding. I'm Vanessa, and around here we believe that you're never too late and your peace is never too far. If you're new here, welcome. Hey. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back to sit with me again. Today's episode is inspired by graduation season and by a very proud family moment. My nephew graduated from Columbia University in New York City, and our whole family is celebrating him. Not just because of the name of the school, though Columbia is certainly something to celebrate, but because of what graduation represents. Completion, discipline, growth, sacrifice, possibility, transition, a doorway, a beginning disguised as an ending. And as proud as I am of him, this moment also made me think about the rest of us. Those of us in midlife. Those of us who may not be walking across a university stage this month, but we are still walking through some major life lessons. We are still being stretched, still being challenged, still being invited into something brand new. And maybe, y'all, in our own way, we are graduating too. We're graduating from fear, graduating from people pleasing, graduating from shrinking, from survival mode, graduating from waiting for permission, graduating from the belief that all the best parts of our life are behind us. So today I want to honor the graduates. And I also want to honor the grown women, the midlife dreamers, the late bloomers, the caregivers, the mothers, the aunties, the grandmothers, the professionals, the job seekers, the women in transition, the women rebuilding, the women quietly becoming someone new. Because there are still discoveries left for us too. Graduation is powerful because it's visible. People gather, names are called, pictures are taken, flowers are given, families cheer, there's music, there's movement, there's celebration. But beneath all of that, graduation is really about one thing. A person stayed the course. They entered one version of life, and through effort, time, tests, failures, assignments, long nights, and growth, they came out changed. That's what makes it meaningful. It's not just the paper, it's the process. And I think that's why graduations make us emotional, because we're not just celebrating the achievement, we're celebrating the becoming. We're celebrating the version of that person who kept showing up even when it got hard. We're celebrating the moments we didn't see, the doubts, the stress, the pressure, the times they probably wondered, can I really do this? And then they did. Watching my nephew graduate from Columbia reminded me that young adulthood is full of discovery. He is stepping into a world where he will continue to learn who he is, what he values, what kind of work lights him up, what kind of people he wants around him, what kind of impact he wants to make. He is entering a season where the road is wide open, y'all, and that is beautiful. But here's the part I don't want us to miss. Midlife has discoveries too. They may look different. They may come with more responsibilities attached. They may require more courage because we've already lived enough life to know that risk is real. But discovery doesn't expire. Curiosity doesn't expire. Growth doesn't expire. Purpose doesn't expire. And sometimes the mistake we make in midlife is believing that discovery belongs to the young, that reinvention belongs to people just starting out, that wonder belongs to those who haven't been disappointed yet. But I don't believe that. In fact, I believe midlife discovery can be even richer, because now we bring wisdom with us. We bring discernment. We bring experience. We bring receipts, y'all. We bring lessons from what worked and what didn't. We bring a deeper understanding of what actually matters. And that is its own kind of graduation. So while my nephew's graduation had a stage, a program, and a ceremony, I started thinking about the graduations many of us experience quietly. The ones that happen in our hearts. The ones that happen after we finally tell the truth. The ones that happen when we decide we are no longer available for a life that keeps asking us to abandon ourselves. Let's talk about those. Graduating from college is commendable. Let me say that clearly. It matters. It deserves celebration. It represents effort, vision, focus, and investment. But it's not the only milestone worth honoring, because in midlife, many women are graduating from things that took every bit of as much courage, maybe more. Some women are graduating from survival mode. They spent years holding everything together, raising children, working full time, caring for aging parents, managing households, being the strong one, being the dependable one, being the person everybody called when something needed to be done. And now, for the first time in a long time, they're asking, what do I need? That is a graduation. Some women are graduating from silence. They spent years swallowing their opinion, keeping the peace, making themselves smaller so other people can feel comfortable. But now they're learning to speak clearly, to say no, to set boundaries, to stop apologizing for having needs. That is a graduation. Some women are graduating from shame. Shame about divorce, shame about debt, shame about career changes, shame about weight gain, shame about aging, shame about dreams that didn't happen on time, shame about having to start over. But now they're realizing my story is not over just because it didn't go according to plan. That is a graduation. Some women are graduating from jobs that no longer fit their spirit. Some are graduating from relationships that drain them. Some are graduating from old identities. Some are graduating from comparison. Some are graduating from waiting. Some are graduating from the belief that being responsible means never choosing joy. And no, there may not be a stage for that. There may not be an audience. There may not be flowers. There may not be a photographer saying, look this way. But heaven sees it. Your spirit feels it. Your nervous system knows it. Your future self is cheering. And that matters, my friend. Because a woman in midlife who decides she is not done learning, not done growing, not done dreaming, not done becoming is a powerful woman. Not because everything is perfect, but because she's lived enough life to know that waiting until everything is perfect is how dreams get buried. And that brings me to something I've been thinking about deeply. When we look at the younger generation, we often want to give them advice. We want to help them avoid unnecessary pain. We want them to learn from what we did right and what we may have done differently. But before we can teach the next generation well, we have to be honest about our own journey. I've always tried to lead by example, not perfectly, but intentionally. I've tried to show the young people in my life what it looks like to work hard, to keep going, to believe in yourself, to serve others, to get back up, to build something meaningful, and to not let disappointment have the final word. But as I got older, I realized that leading by example is not just about showing people what we did right. It's also about being honest enough to say, here's what I may have done differently. Because the younger generation doesn't just need our highlight reel, they need our wisdom. And wisdom includes both success and reflection. They need to know that yes, education matters, discipline matters, integrity matters, showing up matters, following through matters. But they also need to know that rest matters, joy matters, health matters, peace matters, choosing yourself matters, your mental health matters, your nervous system matters, the people you attach to yourself matters, the environments you stay in matter. If I could speak to the young men and women standing on the edge of adulthood, I would say this. Do not confuse achievement with alignment. Do not confuse being busy with being purposeful. Do not confuse applause with peace. Do not confuse a title with identity. Do not confuse survival with success. And do not wait until midlife to ask yourself what kind of life actually feels good to live. Because many of us were taught to chase stability before we were taught to listen to ourselves. We were taught to get the job, pay the bills, be responsible, buy the house, take care of everybody, and keep going. And there is honor in responsibility. There is dignity in hard work. There is beauty in sacrifice. But there is also a cost when you never pause long enough to ask, is this still the life I want? That's one thing I would want younger people to learn from us. Not just how to succeed, but how to stay connected to themselves while they succeed. Because you can win on paper and still feel lost in your spirit. You can have the job and still feel empty. You could do everything right and still wake up one day wondering, where did I go? And that's not failure. That's information. That's an invitation. That's your soul saying, come back home. So if we're going to lead well, especially for the younger people watching us, we can't pretend that life is only about checking boxes. We have to model something deeper. We have to model curiosity. We have to model courage. We have to model the willingness to keep learning. My friend, one of the most beautiful things about watching someone graduate is knowing they still have so much to discover. They may have completed a degree, but life is still just beginning to open in new ways. And in midlife, I think we sometimes forget that we are allowed to keep learning too. Not just formal learning, not just degrees, not just certifications, but learning the world, learning ourselves, learning rest, learning courage, learning emotional regulation, learning how to receive, how to travel, how to dream again, learning how to forgive ourselves, learning how to be beginners. Being a beginner in midlife is humbling, y'all. Let's tell the truth. It can feel awkward. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like everyone else knows what they're doing and you're the only one trying to figure things out. Starting a YouTube channel in midlife, starting a business, learning a new technology, dating again in midlife, going back to school, moving to a new city, changing careers, healing childhood wounds, even learning how to relax in midlife. All of that can feel vulnerable. But vulnerability is not a sign that you're behind. Sometimes vulnerability is the doorway to your next level. There is still so much to learn about this world. There are countries we haven't visited, books we haven't read, languages we haven't explored, foods we haven't tasted, cultures we haven't experienced, rooms we haven't entered, opportunities we haven't imagined, people we haven't met yet, y'all, ideas we haven't considered, versions of ourselves we have not yet become. But we have to be open. We have to be available. That word available keeps sitting with me because sometimes we say we want more, but we are not available for more. We want change, but we're not available for discomfort. We want peace, but we're not available for boundaries. We want a new chapter, but we're not available to release the old one. We want discovery, but we're not available to be a beginner again. And I want to say that with love because I know what it feels like. I do. Sometimes the life we say we want requires a version of us that we have not fully stepped into yet. Not because we're not capable, but because we're still carrying old fears, old habits, old expectations, old definitions of success, old stories about what's possible for a woman at this age. But what if this season is asking us to graduate from those old stories? What if the next lesson is not about proving ourselves? What if the next lesson is about freeing ourselves? When I think about my nephew stepping into his next chapter, I don't just think about what I want him to accomplish. I think about what I want him to understand. Because accomplishments are beautiful, but wisdom is what helps you carry them well. To the young men and women graduating this season, whether from high school, college, graduate school, trade school, military training, or any other major milestone, I want to say this. We are so proud of you. Not just because of what you achieved, but because what it took for you to get there. We are proud of your discipline, your perseverance, your late nights, your early mornings, your moments of doubt, your courage to continue, your willingness to learn, your resilience when things didn't come so easy. And I also want to say this. Please don't rush through your life trying to become impressive. Become grounded, become kind, become curious, become emotionally healthy, become wise. Don't let the world convince you that your worth is only measured by productivity. Don't let algorithms tell you that your life is behind. Don't let other people's timelines make you dishonor your own. Don't confuse visibility with value. Don't confuse money with meaning. Don't confuse being needed with being loved. And please, learn from what we did right. Learn from our work ethic. Learn from our commitment. Learn from our survival. Learn from the way we served, from the way we built careers, homes, communities, and legacies. Learn from the way we prayed, pushed, persisted, and provided. But also learn from what we may have done differently. Learn that burnout is not a badge of honor. That being strong all the time can become its own kind of prison. Learn that postponing joy until retirement is a risky way to live. Learn that staying too long in places that drain you can cost you way more than money. Learn that healing matters. Learn that therapy, rest, mindfulness, movement, faith, community, and honest conversations are not luxuries. They are lifelines. Learn that peace is not something you chase after everything else is settled. Peace is something you practice while life is still changing. That's one of the reasons I created Peace Before the Pivot Toolkit. Because so many of us are waiting for the job to come through, the move to happen, the money to make sense, the relationships to shift, the door to open, or the next chapter to finally begin before we allow ourselves to feel steady. But sometimes the real work is learning how to access peace before the outcome is clear, before the pivot is complete, before the announcement is made, before the next chapter has a title. So if you're in a transition season and you need support slowing down, reflecting, and reconnecting with yourself, I'll have the link for the Peace Before the Pivot Toolkit available for you. No pressure, just a resource if you need something to help you breathe, reflect, and find your footing in the middle. Now let's bring this back to us, because it's beautiful to celebrate the young graduates. It's beautiful to pour wisdom into them. But we can't forget that we are still students of life too. And midlife may be one of the most important classrooms we ever enter. Midlife teaches differently. It doesn't always hand you a syllabus. It doesn't always give you a warning before the test. It doesn't always tell you which lessons you're learning until after you've already cried through it. Midlife will teach you through disappointment, through closed doors, through health changes, through career shifts, through children growing up, through parents aging, through friendships changing, through dreams being delayed, through your body asking for different care, through your spirit asking for a different pace. And sometimes midlife will humble you. It will make you revisit things you thought you'd already mastered. Patience, trust, surrender, self-worth, confidence, boundaries, faith, rest, hope. But midlife also offers gifts, y'all. It gives you clarity. You start realizing what you no longer want to perform for. You start recognizing the difference between peace and approval. You start understanding that some rooms were never meant to hold you. You start seeing that a no can be protection. You start valuing your time different. You start asking better questions, not just what can I achieve, but how do I want to feel? Who do I want to become? What kind of life do I want to wake up inside of? What am I still curious about? What have I been postponing? What would I try if I stopped acting like it was too late? And those questions matter, y'all, because questions are often the beginning of discovery. Before you change your life, you usually have to question your life. Not from a place of regret, but from a place of honesty. And that's where so many women are right now. Not broken, not lost, not done, just questioning, reassessing, reimagining, recalibrating. Standing in the hallway between the life they built and the life they are being called towards. And that hallway can feel confusing, but it can also be sacred. Because sometimes the hallway is where you finally hear yourself again. So what do we do with that? How do we honor young people stepping into their future while also honoring the fact that we still have a future too? I think we start by allowing ourselves to be open again. There's a phrase I want you to sit with. Be open and available for your own becoming. Not just supportive for everyone else. Not just proud of everyone else's dream. Not just cheering from the sidelines while secretly burying your own desires. Be open and available for your own becoming. That means being willing to explore. Being willing to ask new questions. To update your identity, to learn something new, to be seen trying, being willing to be misunderstood for a season, being willing to disappoint people who benefited from the old version of you, being willing to tell the truth about what you want now. Because sometimes midlife discovery requires us to admit that the dream changed, or that we changed. Or that the dream didn't change, but we are finally brave enough to pursue it. Maybe you still want to travel. Maybe you still want to write that book. Maybe you still want to start the business. Maybe you still want to go back to school. Maybe you still want to move abroad. Maybe you still want to fall in love. Maybe you still want to heal your body. Maybe you still want to become financially free. Maybe you still want to build community. Maybe you still want to create art. Maybe you still want to speak, teach, coach, mentor, serve, lead, or inspire. Maybe you still want to feel alive again. And I want to say this gently, but clearly. That desire is not silly. That desire is not too late. That desire is not irresponsible just because it belongs to you. Sometimes women in midlife have spent so much time being practical that dreaming feels almost rebellious. But dreaming is not immaturity. Dreaming is oxygen. Dreaming is direction. Dreaming is evidence that something inside of you is still awake. And no, every dream may not happen exactly the way you imagined. Some dreams may need strategy. Some dreams may need funding. Some may need support. Some may need a slower timeline. Some may need to be adjusted. But don't bury the desire just because the path is not obvious yet. Let the desire speak. Let it teach you. Let it show you where your life is asking for expansion. And as we expand, we also get to redefine what success looks like. Because one of the biggest lessons of midlife is realizing that success is not one size fits all. Graduating from Columbia University is success, absolutely. Graduating from any college, university, trade program, certification program, or training program is a success. But let's widen that lens, because success also looks like a woman going back to school at 50. Success looks like finishing a certification after years of saying one day. Success looks like leaving a toxic work environment with your dignity intact. Success looks like starting therapy, paying off a debt, buying your first home after divorce. Y'all, success looks like downsizing so you could breathe again. Success looks like launching a YouTube channel when you're terrified nobody will watch. Success looks like applying for a job even after being rejected time and time and time again. Success looks like choosing peace over proving a point, becoming a grandmother and still having dreams of your own. Success looks like caring for your body after years of neglect. It looks like telling the truth after years of pretending you were fine. Success looks like resting without guilt. It looks like creating a new income stream. Success looks like forgiving yourself for the years you didn't know better. Yeah, success looks like waking up and deciding, I still want more, and I'm allowed to go after it. We need to celebrate these milestones too, because for many women, nobody claps when they choose themselves. Nobody claps when they stop over-functioning. Nobody claps when they set a boundary. Nobody claps when they rebuild quietly. Nobody claps when they survive the season that almost broke them. But today, I want to clap for that. I want to show honor for that. I want to say, if you are rebuilding, congratulations, my friend. If you are healing, congratulations. If you are learning to rest, congratulations. If you are starting again, congratulations. If you are still hopeful after disappointment, if you are becoming more honest with yourself, if you are choosing peace in the middle of uncertainty, congratulations. That is growth. That is courage. That is graduation too. And maybe that is the message I want to leave with both the younger generation and the midlife generation today. Life keeps offering us classrooms. The question is whether we're still willing to stay teachable. One of the most powerful things we could do at any age is stay teachable. Not insecure, not constantly second-guessing ourselves, but teachable, open, curious, willing to learn, willing to evolve, willing to admit, I don't know everything. There is something beautiful about a young person who knows they have more to learn, but there is something deeply powerful about a grown woman who knows it too. Because by midlife, we have opinions, don't we? We have habits, don't we? We have patterns, we have preferences, we have stories we have been telling ourselves for decades. And sometimes those stories need to be updated. Because the old story was, I'm too old. The new story is, I'm experienced. Maybe the old story was, I missed my chance. But the new story is, I'm preparing for a different kind of opportunity. Maybe the old story was, I have to do everything alone. But the new story is, support is a part of wisdom. Yeah, maybe the old story was, I can't start over. But the new story is, I've started over before and I could do it again. Maybe the old story was, my best years are behind me. But the new story is, my next years get to be more intentional. That is what it means to stay teachable. It means we are not locked into who we used to be. We can learn new patterns, new practices, new rhythms, new ways of loving ourselves, new ways of leading, new ways of resting, new ways of dreaming. And that's what I want young people to see when they look at us. Not women who gave up, not women who became bitter, not women who only talk about what they used to do, but women who are still learning, still laughing, still growing, still exploring, still willing to be surprised by life, still willing to let God open doors we didn't even know existed. That's legacy, not perfection, not performance. Legacy is the courage to keep becoming, and from the people coming behind you. So as we celebrate the graduates this season, I don't just see young people stepping into their future. I see a reminder for the rest of us. Because sometimes watching someone else begin a new chapter makes you look at your own life and ask, where am I still being invited to grow? Not because you're behind, not because you missed something, but because life keeps calling us forward in different ways. So before we close, I want to share what it really means to still be discovering yourself in midlife. When I was younger, I thought life would become clearer as I got older. I thought by this stage I would have fewer questions. I thought I would know exactly where I was going, what I was doing, what the plan was, and how everything was going to unfold. And in some ways, I do know myself better now. I know what matters to me. I know what I value. I know the kind of peace I want. I know the kind of life I don't want to keep repeating. But in other ways, y'all, I'm still discovering. I'm still discovering what courage looks like in this season. Because courage at 25 and courage in midlife are not always the same thing. At 25, courage might look like moving to a new city with very little fear because you didn't fully understand what can go wrong. But in midlife, courage looks different. It looks like making a decision when you do understand the risk. It looks like starting over when you have bills, responsibilities, family, aging parents, grown children, grandchildren, a career history, and a whole life attached to your current identity. It looks like saying, I still want more, even when parts of you wonder if wanting more is selfish. I talked about this in a previous episode, what nobody tells you about starting over at 50. Because one of the hardest parts of reinvention is realizing that starting over in midlife is not just about changing your circumstances. It's about changing your relationship with uncertainty. It's about learning how to move forward when you don't have the same energy, the same timeline, or the same illusion of unlimited do-overs that you may have had when you were younger. And yet, somehow, there's still grace for the next chapter. I'm still discovering what it means to trust myself. Not the version of myself who has everything figured out. Not the version of myself who has a perfect plan. But the version of me who keeps showing up, keeps listening, keeps adjusting, and keeps believing that even closed doors can be part of the direction. And I'll be real with you. There are moments when I look at young people graduating, including my nephew, and I feel so much pride and excitement for them. Because they are standing at the beginning of so many possibilities. But I also have to remind myself that possibility didn't leave the room just because I got older. For me, possibility looks like continuing to build ways of change. It looks like learning YouTube even when I didn't grow up in this digital creator space. It looks like sharing my story out loud instead of keeping everything polished and private. It looks like building resources like Peace Before the Pivot Toolkit, because I know what it feels like to be in the middle of a transition and need something to hold on to. It looks like dreaming about a life abroad, even when the timing hasn't unfolded the way I expected. It looks like allowing myself to still be a student of life, y'all. And that hasn't always been easy. Because sometimes in midlife, we feel pressure to already know, to already have the answer, to already have the plan, to already be settled. But I'm learning that being settled and being finished are not the same thing. You can be grounded and still growing. You can be wise and still curious. You can have experience and still be a beginner. You can have lived a lot of life and still be standing on the edge of something new. And maybe that's one of the greatest gifts of this season. I don't have to pretend I'm 22 again. I don't have to compete with a younger version of myself. I don't have to rush to prove that I still matter. I get to bring everything I've lived, everything I've learned, everything I've survived, and everything I'm still becoming into this next chapter. So as I celebrate my nephew and all the graduates walking into their next season, I'm also letting that celebration remind me of something. There is still a next season for me, and there is still a next season for you too. And we don't have to know every step before we can honor the fact that we are still being called forward. Maybe your next discovery won't come with a diploma. Maybe it will come through a decision, a conversation, a move, a healing moment, a new opportunity, a quiet realization, a door that opens after you thought you were done knocking. But stay open, my friend. Stay available. Stay willing to learn, because the life ahead of you may still have something beautiful to teach you. Before we close, I want to bring this home with a simple reflection. Because I believe every graduation, whether public or private, asks us to pause and honor the journey. So let's honor yours. To my nephew, I want to say again, congratulations. We are so proud of you, not only for graduating from Columbia University, but for stepping into the next chapter with a whole life of discovery ahead of you. May you stay curious. May you stay humble. May you stay grounded. May you remember where you come from. May you build a life that is not only impressive but meaningful. May you chase excellence, but not at the expense of your peace. May you use your gifts well. May you keep learning. May you let life surprise you. And to the rest of us in midlife, I want to say congratulations to you too. For all the silent graduations, for every time you kept going, for every time you changed your mind, for every time you healed a little bit more, for every time you chose peace over chaos, for every time you decided not to give up on yourself, for every time you whispered, maybe there's still more for me. There is. There's still more for you. More to learn, more to love, more to see, more to create, more to experience, more to appreciate, more to become. But you have to stay open. You have to stay available. You have to stop acting like discovery belongs only to the young. You have to stop treating your age like a period when it might actually be a comma. Your life is not over. Your purpose is not over. Your joy is not over. Your curiosity is not over. Your ability to grow is not over. Your next chapter may not look like what you thought it would look like, but that doesn't mean it can't still be beautiful. So celebrate the graduates. Cheer loudly. Take the pictures. Send the cards. Give the hugs. Speak the blessings. And then, when the celebration quiets down, turn the mirror back towards yourself and ask, what am I ready to graduate from? What am I ready to discover next? And am I willing to become available for the life that is still calling me? Because there is still life ahead. And it's not just survival. Life, real life, y'all. Inspired life, grounded life, peaceful life, purposeful life. A life that still has room for wonder. Hey, my friend, thank you for spending time with me today on Ways of Change. If this episode spoke to you, I hope you'll like it, subscribe, and share it with another woman who needs to be reminded that she is not too late. And if you are in a season of transition, uncertainty, or quiet reinvention, I invite you to download the Peace Before the Pivot Toolkit. It was created to help you slow down, reflect, regulate your emotions, and find peace before your next chapter fully unfolds. The link is in the description box below. Until next time, I'm Vanessa, and this is Waves of Change. Remember, you're never too late, and your peace is never too far. Bye.